Welcome back to Word of Mouth, everyone. Welcome, Mr. Jacob McClendon as well, here to co-host with me.
What's up?
This week we are talking with Mr. Josh Williams. Josh, welcome.
Thanks,
welcome
guys.
To the show.
Stoked to be here.
So, Josh, you are a partner at a place called Workplay.
Yes, so I'm one of 5 partners, also a general manager there. Do most of the shows and keeping up with calendar management, but I'll also run box office and clean the floors and do all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, help around just a little bit of everything, huh? So Workplay, for listeners who don't know, is a venue here in town. It's been around for a long time, but recently was acquired by you and a few other guys. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, so Workplay actually opened in 2001. Is from Alan Hunter and a couple of his brothers. So Alan was actually the first VJ on MTV. Opened Workplay as obviously the name is work and play, so it's office spaces. They did a lot of movie productions back in the soundstage.
Oh,
cool. And then the big theater, they would also do shows in the soundstage, and then so they had it. I want to say it was 9 to 10 years, and then Tommy Williams and his brother Clark actually purchased Workplay from Alan and his brothers, and so that's who we purchased it from. So we're third owners in. We bought Workplay in October of 23, and then did a 3-month reno. Reopened in February of 24. So knocked down a bunch of walls, kind of reopened the front bar area. There was kind of an awkward little lobby. It was very dated.
Yeah.
So just kind of brought everything up to, little modernized it a little bit and knocked down some walls, made everything more of an open concept. And, and then with the soundstage, we're doing more shows back there. So, we see a big room. We're like, hey, we're concert guys. So it's let's do, this 1,000 cap room. Let's go to town. And and then also there was this kind of a hallway spot where they had done some weddings, stuff like that before. So, our initial walkthrough was with Johnny and Shane, and we walked through there. I was like, guys, we got to make this a 350 cap room. Birmingham needs it. So now we've launched that too. It's called the Canteen.
Okay.
And so we're doing, tonight, actually, we don't have 2 shows, but there's many nights where it's, we've got a show or a private event going on one side of the building. The other side of the building's doing both. So it's kind of the goal is to get, there's 3 different spaces in there, and can't really do all 3 of them together because the canteen and the soundstage kind of connect as one, but one or the other, and then the theater too. So
How did you get your start in music world? Because you said you and a bunch of other guys are concert guys. So have you always worked in music?
Not always. So, I grew up in kind of the DIY punk rock, hardcore music scene. That's actually where I met Johnny, the first band I was in, booked a show with, at my parents' pool. It's the grand opening of the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So.
Love it.
Are you originally from Birmingham?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I am. So I grew up out in West Jefferson County, so Adamsville is where I'm from. So
Let's go.
Yeah.
minor high school.
I love that.
Yeah. So met Johnny when I was 14. Booked a pool party show with a couple punk rock bands, and my band played. And Johnny's a little bit older than me. I want to say he was probably 18, 19 at the time.
And how old were you?
I was 14. Okay. So yeah, so he's 5 years older than me. So he was 19 then, but so he came out, been good buddies ever since. And then I actually played music in a bunch of different bands back in the day, and spent a lot of time touring around the world and all that stuff. And then got burnt out on touring in mid 2008, and I was the band that I was playing in. I was playing in the band, but also tour managing and booking shows in Birmingham and all that kind of stuff. So quit all that. Started working for Frito-Lay actually as as a route sales guy.
Gotcha.
Quite the switch.
I was going to say
Yeah.
there's a through line. I think it's a
Yeah.
common trajectory,
Yeah.
touring all over the world and then selling chips.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was ready for I guess an extreme change at the time. Just
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm because touring life was always like, it's difficult because you're home from tour and then you want to be back out on tour, but then as soon as you get back out on tour, you can't wait to be home, and
Yeah.
it's like this never-ending cycle of like, man, what am I doing? So quit that, went to work there. Would still do shows every now and then as far as like promoting them, but really just kind of quit all that altogether. And then did that for 9 years, and then started, connected with Johnny again as Furnace Fest rolled out. So Furnace Fest, big festival out at Sloss, originally started in, I think it was 99 or maybe it was 2000, but maybe it was 2000. So it went for 4 years from 2000 to 2004. And Johnny and Chad had talked about bringing it back. And so Johnny and I would talk a lot. And then, like, what do you think of this band? What do you think of that band? All that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of how we reconnected. And then, the Furnace Fest brand or whatnot started doing like shows throughout the year to kind of build awareness of the festival. And then we were doing those like all the time, like every other week. And we had also, throughout our friendship had always been like, man, we should own a venue one day. So as we started doing all these shows, it was like, man, it would make so much more sense if we just had our own space.
One spot to do it, yeah.
Exactly. So we started looking around, and originally we weren't planning on like huge idea like Workplay or something like that, but it's also kind of the guys we are. Like we have these big ideas, and just like, we're, I guess, very addictive personalities. When we have our mindset to something, it's like, let's go big or go home. So
Yeah.
So went and looked at Workplay. And
so was it like, had it been put up for sale for a long time, or are you guys like, we are interested in buying, and that's when that like ball started rolling?
No, so the way that happened was Johnny had originally looked at Workplay to do like the big Furnace Fest kickoff party when that relaunch happened in 2020. It eventually got pushed to 2021 because of COVID, but during that time he was looking at Workplay as an option to do like, the big kickoff party. And Johnny had met with Tom then and kind of looked around the building, and Tom was like, man, I don't know, that's a lot. And, but if you want to buy the building, I'll sell it to you.
Huh.
No way.
And so as Johnny and I started talking about doing all this stuff, he was like, man, I remember Tommy Williams telling me like years ago when we looked at a Furnace Fest kind of for the kickoff party that, he mentioned wanting to sell it. So I'm going to reach back out to him. And I was actually with Shane, one of our other partners at the time. And I'm sitting there talking to Shane. I was like, man, what is Johnny thinking? Like, Workplay, that's crazy. We're talking about like a 1,400 square foot building, not a 31,000 square foot building.
Yeah.
And so 5 minutes later, Johnny texts back. She's like, Monday at 10 a.m., let's go. And then so we go Monday, 10 a.m. By the time, like, we were there for an hour, and like, it was one of those things where we're just looking at each other like, hey, we got to figure out a way to make this happen. So brought in some other partners. And so between the five of us, we raised over $1 million in 7 days. Just
Wow.
Jeez.
So, yeah. So we were pretty pumped about it, obviously.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's how that all happened.
Yeah.
So out of just like personal curiosity, like I know there's like, there's the three stages, but there's also like studio space and stuff in there.
Yeah. So
like everything pretty much got like a full build out. You guys like redid everything. Yeah.
So there were studios there.
Yeah.
They were just not really like up to date.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Shane, one of our, partners at Workplay, that's kind of more his background. Like Shane's grown up, recording and engineering for bands and, as a producer and everything. So so that was his main interest, because he was, at the time was recording, tracking, doing everything in his basement, which, basement studios are great. Some of the best records, come out of there. Like, he had a sweet setup, but he wanted something like, like the real deal type thing. So that's what kind of sparked Shane's interest in all this, was like, because he had been to, Workplay. We all grew up going there all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was a special place for us already. And so instead of doing like a studio build out in a different venue and all that, it was like, well, hey, this, all this needs is updating.
Yeah.
So Shane came in, and now he's operating out of Studio A, as well as 2 other different engineers. But there's a Studio B too that we're on a long-term lease. A guy named Ronnie Harris operates out of Studio B and teaches like drum lessons, all kind of stuff. It's pretty awesome.
You guys buying just kind of came at in my opinion, like a perfect time, because like Workplay held definitely like a weight, like early 2000s, that like people understood, and then it just like there just wasn't really many shows there. I mean, I saw Colony House there in 2020, and that was like the first like show I'd seen there in a while. And then like I had been to a few things there, but like since the revamp, it has been so much more like, okay, there's these big 4, these big 5 in the city, and Workplay is like back on the map with that kind of stuff.
Awesome. That's what we're trying to do. Again, we all kind of grew up just going there all the time. And
there's like a Monty Montgomery record, like Workplay live record. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's an acoustic guitarist.
Oh, I've seen that.
There's like a live record from like super early 2000s, and I liked it already. And then I realized on the cover it said live at Workplay. I was like, oh, that's like our work, like Birmingham Workplay.
Yeah, that's wild. Like Maroon 5 did a live album in the theater there too. It's wild.
That's so sick.
So there's been a lot of awesome artists, over the years from 2001 to now that have played there. Like, Bob Dylan's even played on the theater stage.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Pretty wild. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of the booking and management stuff, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So getting to interact with all these artists and stuff, is that like pretty cool? Do you get to have like cool intentional conversations with people, or is a lot of it just kind of like you're dealing with the tour manager, email chain?
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I probably get, I don't know, somewhere between 140 and 180 emails a day. So
holy cow,
it's a lot to keep up with, and a lot of it can be aggravating, because it's like, hey, this should be all under one thread. We have 7 threads, and then when you ask me a question, I'm like, I'm going through like the 7 different email chains, and because nowadays it's not just like agent and tour manager. You've got agent, manager, second agent, second manager, everything. It's crazy. So there will be a team of 20 plus people on an email chain, and then it's a lot, but I love it. It's fun.
Yeah. Do you get to actually hang out with any of the bands and stuff, or is it all work?
Yeah, I mean, I do. Just from touring like so much back in the day, like for the heavier stuff that we do, like generally I'll know someone, like an old merch guy or tour manager or something. It's like, dude, I haven't seen you in 9 years. How you been doing? So get to run into a lot of people that I used to kind of run circles with and see on a regular basis. So that's fun. But yeah, I mean, we always try to just make sure the bands are, we don't want to like go in there and be like, hey guys, we're hanging out with you.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, most of the time they're all pretty chill. They'll just hang out in the green room, and they'll be like, hey, the remote needs batteries.
Yeah.
I'm like, gotcha.
That's cool.
I'm curious, like, since the revamp, like, you guys have, it's been like a ton of like hardcore shows, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, is that by design, or is that just like what has ended up happening because you and Johnny are like come from like hardcore background?
Yeah, I mean, definitely to start with, it's because the shows that we were doing at the time when we purchased Workplay were heavier, more geared toward like what you would see at Furnace Fest.
Yeah.
But then, now it's
like getting wider and wider on who you guys bring.
It's definitely a broad range. Like, we've got rap shows, like CCM shows, like all kind of, it's wild. So, definitely not, you can't really, you can't operate a music venue only doing one genre or hardcore or whatnot. So yeah, we're doing, we've got Filter next month.
Let's go.
which will be awesome. I grew
saw
up listening to that band.
Alien Ant Farm played like some months ago.
Yes.
My audiophile that opened to that show,
Yeah.
those guys are some friends of mine.
Okay.
They're some good dudes.
They're good dudes.
That's awesome.
Dudes. So yeah, we've got, rock and roll, soul music, all kind of stuff. So,
do y'all do any like, I know that it's been a trend that podcasts and comedians are kind of touring more. Comedians have kind of always done it, but like podcasts and like other mediums of tour are happening. Have y'all ever dabbled in any of that kind of stuff, or y'all purely music?
a little bit. So, I mean, we've actually had a few holds for different comedians, and for whatever reason, like their tour routing changed or whatnot. And so we haven't had a ton of that. I feel like we've had one comedy show maybe. But yeah.
Do those have similar turnout to shows, like music shows, or do you, I mean, I guess if you've only done a couple, maybe you don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't have a ton of history on it.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah,
I was curious.
Yeah, we're doing, we've got a podcast space inside of Workplay too. So we've kind of revamped. There was a guy named Barry Brooks that did voiceovers, had his studio there at the end of the hallway ever since Workplay opened. And as soon as we bought it, he was like, "Hey guys, I'm just letting you know I'm going to retire soon, so don't count me in."
Yeah.
Which he was awesome. So he was there for probably 4 or 5 months, and so it was. But the studio that he had built was, it was awesome. So we looked and we were like, "What should we do here?" We've got all these friends that are doing podcast stuff, and so we just rented out to podcasters to come in. So and it surprisingly stays pretty busy. So
yeah. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Has it been pretty scary running your own thing? I mean, I know you have partners and stuff, but like you are a business owner now. Like,
yeah.
Kind of going out on your own.
I mean, yes and no. Like, we do enough there to where it's like, okay, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense, that type thing. But, it's really like, it's kind of crazy because I didn't realize this going into this, but like, concerts and even though we're an indoor music venue, like touring in general is more seasonal. So you have, your fall and your spring are just crazy. It's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. But then July hits and it's like, well, we've got Saturday and then next Friday. So
yeah.
So trying to fill in, like, it was wild though, because like, I grew up touring and like summer was when everyone toured, and now it's just totally different.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know. I do not know. I mean, yeah. I mean, festivals tend to take over a lot in the summer because 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, you didn't have all these festivals like you do now.
There's so many music festivals.
It's wild. So, ton of different festivals going on. So, I don't know if it's like the heat or if folks have just figured out like, hey, everyone's on vacation.
Yeah.
Summertime isn't the best time to tour, which, we'll still have some awesome shows. It's just not like as consistent as, the fall and the spring are.
Yeah. Speaking of festivals,
yeah,
y'all are working on something.
Yeah, so we just announced Iron Hills Festival. I think a month ago-ish.
Yeah.
So we're super pumped about that. So Johnny and I both grew up listening, loving country music. I came from a background in that world. Like I learned how to play guitar from my great uncles and aunts that had a bluegrass band, and they'd play like Saturday nights, and they were in their 50s, 60s, 70s,
that's awesome.
Still rocking out, doing bluegrass. And so I kind of grew up listening to, Travis Tritt was one of the first like, country artists that I would, just would listen to on a regular basis, man. I was like, man, I love this so much. And actually Travis Tritt's playing Iron Hills. So
yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I saw him on the poster.
He is. So as soon as I started, booking the bands and everything for it, I was like, he's got Alabama ties, plus he's just great. So I was like, let's go for it. So
yeah.
Went after him, but it's Turnpike Troubadours is going to headline the first night, which is October 11th and 12th. So Saturday and Sunday, we're doing Furnace Fest the first weekend of October, and then straight into Iron Hills the next weekend.
So you guys just don't want to sleep in October, is what you're telling me?
Yeah. I mean, I actually slept at Workplay last year during that.
Oh my gosh.
During Furnace
That's
Fest
wild.
because Furnace Fest is at Sloss, but we also do like the pre-parties, after parties, all this kind of stuff. So I was like, even though I live 15 minutes up the road, that's 30 minutes a day that I can sleep, and I'm sleeping for an hour and 20 minutes. Let's capitalize on everything we can here.
So is Iron Hills at Sloss as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
So they're both Furnace Fest and Iron Hills will be at Sloss Furnace.
Wow.
So Iron Hills is a 2-day festival as opposed to Furnace Fest, which is a 3-day festival. But we're really pumped with the lineup and how it came out. So we've got Ryan Bingham and the Texas Gentleman. So anyone that the Yellowstone crowd, like he's a big name for sure. So
that's awesome.
We're pumped to have him. But we wanted to mix it with like kind of what we grew up on, like that like solid 90s country type vibes, like Travis Tritt, Jody Messina, like get to hear heads Carolina, let's go. So but then Turnpike, there's such a band's doing great things right now. They've sold out, I think it's 2 nights they're doing at it's the big amphitheater that everyone flies out to.
Red Rocks?
Red
Rocks. I was gonna say,
yeah.
I have friends who live right around the corner from Red Rocks, and they don't go see shows
They
very
don't
much.
even go.
And I'm like, dude,
What
you're
are you
insane.
doing?
Like, why are you?
Dude,
why?
that's like Maggie is from there, and she was like, "Yeah, my first concert was at Red Rocks. Wow, that's crazy." And I was like, "You have no clue. That's so cool."
Yeah, that's wild. So building a lineup like this, when y'all sit down to say we're gonna do country music festival, do you kind of just like dream and spitball and think through all the big artists and the medium and little size artists that you'd want to get, and then you just start reaching out? Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely by design for sure, but it's the way that we did it anyway was like, okay, what kind of budget do we want to set for this? What kind of artists can we get for this budget? And it's almost like you see those like little memes or whatnot on Facebook. It's like build your dream lineup out of $80
You just like
spend.
get to do that.
So
it's actually literally like that.
Yeah, it's kind of what it's like, and it's cool, it's fun, we love it, but it definitely. I worked probably 3.5-4 months on building that lineup, and you've got, because it's people don't really understand, like it's not so much as like, hey, could you play this? It's you've got radius clauses with other markets and different festivals, and then they're going to be back in the fall or the spring and all that. So it's for every one artist we have confirmed, I've probably got 35 other emails.
Wow.
So yeah,
dude, yeah. My like tiny scale version of that is I do some of the booking for Sanford, like for the artists we bring in for like Welcome Back concert and stuff, and people will be like, dude, you got to get like so and so, and I'm like, man, like we've tried to get like 100 different people, and it's like you said, it's like, okay, they're playing here in the fall, okay, they're on the road at this time, like we can't get them for that show, or like so on, and also like super tight budget. It's like now these days, like some bands are like, oh, they'd probably be like this much. It's 3 times, 4 times what you would even what you would even imagine like someone could cost.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild for sure. But I was pumped to land on Turnpike.
Turnpike that's such a good snap. Everyone I've told about the festival.
First email that I'd sent out, I was like,
no way.
We've got to get Turnpike, and then we were able to make it happen. So.
Everyone I've told that like it's happening, I'm like, dude, Turnpike's headlining, and they're like, no way, like we gotta go. That's gonna be sick.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of wanted to dig in a little bit deeper on that, and it's okay if you don't want to talk about this, but like working out those contracts and stuff like that, I have a lot of friends who work in the music industry and are going through school to then do that. When you're building out a festival like that, are the contracts like, we'll pay you this up front and then you're hoping to recoup off of ticket sales? Or is it like, here's this like set amount, down payment, if you will, and then like you get a percentage cut of ticket sales? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, so for us, like, we have a background in music festivals and everything like that. A lot of it depends on like the trust you have and can build with an agent. Like if it's, if someone wanted to go out and book their first music festival, like odds are agents are going to be like, well, hey, we need 100% up front, just because,
You've never done this before. We don't know if this is going to work.
In full transparency, it's not easy to put on a music festival. You've got like the marketing expenses are astronomical. Production is crazy. Like, there's so many moving parts that go into festivals, and people just like see a lineup and be like, oh, I can do that, which maybe they can, but it's a lot of work that goes into it. So
DIY festivals and large scale is like so different.
Yeah.
Like people just don't, I feel like people don't really understand that.
Yeah. So, which we've got a great team. We're all pretty familiar with how to do things, especially at Sloss and everything. So, but yeah, so to go back to that, it's really just kind of building the trust and saying, hey, we've done this, 7 times already, or, just kind of assuring them that like, hey, this isn't the first time we've done this.
Yeah, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Was the dream always to work in music when you were growing up?
Yeah, honestly, it was. So, I knew that I didn't want to like be in a band or, continue touring and all that. And, but so my dream job at that point was like to be a booking agent, which now I guess I'm the one on the other side of the booking agent. So
right.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's cool. Love it. What's the dream for Workplay and kind of the future? What are y'all aiming at?
Yeah, so we've got the sound stage, which is that 1,000 cap room that we have in the back, and we really want to, expand on that to where, we've got plans to build a balcony in the back and blow out some doors, have some green rooms, because right now it's one of those things where like it's not the most convenient setup because the green room is at, by the merch area, so you've got to set up like barricade and like a path to the stage, and it's just wasn't thought out like
yeah,
the way that someone would do it in 2025. I mean, the building's 24 years old, so we want to go in and put some green rooms, some restrooms in the back, and then as well as expanding some restrooms up front, and then once we do that, it'll open up the capacity a lot, and then the plan is, to have as many of those shows going as humanly possible. We'd love to. Last year we did 152 ticketed shows at Workplay, so it's
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I think the last I looked at it, we'll be past that like in mid-August already.
Holy cow!
Yeah. And that's just awesome. That's just ticketed events. That's not even like private parties. Like we do a ton of like corporate Christmas parties or just Christmas parties in general, or a wedding reception or an actual wedding. We've got a wedding next Tuesday. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So they've got like a full band coming in. Like they're
That's
like,
sick.
we want to make this more of a concert than a wedding. I'm like, well, you can
do it.
The right place.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is the spot.
Yeah,
that rocks. What's the? Do you have relationships with some of the other venues around town? Is there like a spirit of competition between you guys, or what's that like?
No. I mean, I do have a relationship, yeah, but no, everyone in town has been awesome. We all kind of work together here. Like, Jason over at Iron City, they're right at our back door. So Jason actually helps us a lot with, the sound and production for the sound stage and all that. And he, whenever we bought Workplay, like everything in the theater was just all analog gear. Like, I mean, it was wild. The front of house took up like 32 feet.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. When it could be literally a Behringer X32, like
yeah, so
tiny little thing.
So he rerouted everything to the amp room upstairs, and now we've got like literally just enough room for the 2 boards, like the LD board, and we've got a Avid SC48 that we run for.
Let's go.
For front of house, and so
what do you run in the canteen, just out of curiosity?
The canteen, we run a Midas M32.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it so? Y'all have 3 different brands of boards. You said Midas, and then what were the other
Avid
two?
Avid and Midas. We've got an X32 for the canteen as well. Okay. But Josh Ford, one of our he's our main sound guy that does theater.
He's so good, man.
Yeah, he's
so talented.
He's awesome, man. I love that dude. But
he produced Meadows' most recent record. I don't know if you know them, but they're some.
Now they're good friends of mine.
They're guys from Gardendale. So
Yep.
I saw them when I was like 13, which is pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a sound guy, so I wanted to nerd out a little bit for a second.
But yeah, the sound stage though, all of that gear kind of comes from Jason. So Jason's GM at Iron City, but he also owns Black Sheep Audio, which is his own audio company. And I mean, dude has like 9 different boards. It's crazy. I couldn't even tell you what we run in there. I think he's bringing another Avid for this wedding, but
Sick.
I mean, it's really, you know, the way that we do it is we'll have like our writer and tech specs and let the artist pick one of these 7 boards, and then he'll bring it over. Like, which one are you guys more familiar with and comfortable with? And then, so it's great to have that kind of flexibility to where it's like not just tied to one thing.
Yeah, love it. Do you have any advice that you'd give to like younger kids in high school and college who want to go into music?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I would, you know, if you're looking to go into music as, you know, someone that doesn't have a ton of experience, just to try to, you know, for one, support shows and stuff like that. Like, just try to get plugged in and involved in, you know, whatever, like, you know, Saturn, Iron City, Workplay, whatever, you know, whatever it is, like, because we have a lot of those kids that come out and they want to learn, and it's like, you know, if I see someone over and over again, it's like, hey man, what's up? What are you doing? What do you want to learn about? Like, I'll just dive in with them, like, you know, so just to get plugged in the local scene, and then, you know, just work at it, you know.
Yeah, love it.
That's honestly something I experience at school a lot. Like right now is like people really like love playing music, but they really love playing music at Sanford. And then you graduate and it's like, oh, I haven't like integrated into the scene like at all. And it's like, okay, well your music community was based on your like current school status. So once that's over, it's like you're not you haven't really done anything about it. So that is very, very solid advice, I think.
Yeah. Do you still play music much?
I don't really. So actually the band that I was in, like a metalcore band just for fun, with some of the old guys some old friends and current friends, you know, that I was playing music with. And as soon as Workplay became a thing, it was like, I do not have time to do this. So we actually played, our last show was the first Canteen show that Workplay ever had. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Do you miss it?
Not really, honestly. I mean, like, the only thing I ever missed about touring and playing music was like seeing friends, and now I still get to do that.
Right.
So I don't really miss playing music, honestly.
Do you have any like stories from the road that are like stupid, crazy, like made you not want to do it, made you want to do it more, like anything like that?
Oh God.
I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds.
There's so many. There's so many. I mean, we used to do these things called van wars where, I mean, it was crazy. Like you'd go to a Taco Bell or whatever and like just fill up a cup full of like Taco Bell sauce, and then be driving down the interstate and throw it at the band, you know, that you're on tour with, just cover them up with, I mean, but it would get crazy. But actually one of the best pranks we ever got pulled on us is we were touring with a band called Modern Life is War, who is actually playing Furnace Fest this year.
Oh, let's go. Also, can I just say, I mean, this year's Furnace Fest lineup is
it's sick, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
Kubla Khan again. I was like, let's freaking go. Knocked Loose again. I was like, like all of that. I'm stoked about.
Yeah. I'm pumped for it. But so we were on tour with a band called Modern Life is War, and we were somewhere in the Midwest. I forget exactly where they're from, but I want to say we were in like Omaha. But we had like 2 days off from the tour, and so we were traveling in a 15-passenger van that had like, you know, your 2 captain chairs or whatnot, the 2 bench seats, but then we had made like a bed above it, so you would climb over the bench seats onto the bed, but there was like this awkward little gully that only one of our guys like could stomach sleeping down there, because it was just, I mean, you had to like crawl into this tiny hole, but then once you were down there, it was like if you have any if you're claustrophobic at all, like
not happening.
Yeah, it was just hard to get down there. But Scott, our one of our other guitar players, that was his spot, and so we had these 2 days off, came back, and then like a few days later, he's like, "Man, it stinks in here." And I was like, "Dude, we're 6 weeks into tour, and there's 8 of us in here. It's gonna smell, So we just kind of wrote it off as like, man, we need to clean the van out next time we can. But then it progressively got just worse and worse and worse. And then finally, it's like middle of the night, we're driving. He was like, God, it's rank back here, guys. And then he's like reaching around trying to see if he can figure out, what it is. And he starts screaming. He's like, there's hair. There's a leg. And I was like, what? He's like, it's like a human leg or something. I was like, what are you talking about? So we pull over at a rest stop, and there's this garbage bag, and we just get the garbage sack, put it upside down, and it's just this ostrich leg.
What the heck?
What?
And we're like, what in the world? Because we were always pretty good about locking the van back and stuff like that. But we immediately knew, like, this had to be a prank from one of the bands we were on tour with.
Where do you find an ostrich leg?
I know, right? It was wild.
What in the world?
So that tour was also with a band called He Is Legend, and we were good buddies with those guys. We're like, oh, it's got to be those guys. Matt, Skylar, one of them did it. We know they did. And because Modern Life is War, we had not really pranked them too hard, on this tour or whatever. But then everyone on the tour was like, dude, like they wouldn't even like look. I mean, they'd look at you and be like, it wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. So finally last night of tour, we all do the big group photo, all that stuff, tell everyone bye. And 15 minutes down the road, singer from Modern Life is War was like, it was us. I knew it was somebody on tour, but so it turned out, I don't remember if it was their bass player or anyway, one of them, like their parents had an ostrich farm. And they had a dead ostrich, so they just cut the leg off and threw it in our van. What in the world?
That is insane.
Yeah. I mean, I would be terrified. If it felt like a human leg, I'd be like, what are we getting ourselves into?
And that makes more sense. It would feel like a human leg because ostriches are huge,
Crazy.
Yeah. No, Scott was freaking out. I was like, dude, I'm pulling over. Give me a second.
That's crazy.
And what was the band you were in called? What was it?
It's called Maylene and the Sons of Disaster.
Okay, cool.
Do y'all have any music online now?
Yeah, it's still on there. So I was only on there for the first 2 records. There's 4 total. But yeah, so it was fun.
That's sick.
What's the craziest place you got to go on tour?
So I mean, we did a European tour with a band called Norma Jean.
Oh man, that's sick. They've played like every year, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
They're awesome guys, but got to go to Europe. They had a really cool bus driver. So there was a 4-band tour that we were a part of in Europe with them, but in Europe, the buses are, double deckers. So you'd have one band like downstairs and one band upstairs, vice versa. So they had a really awesome bus driver. Our bus driver was like 85.
Holy cow.
And he was like, nope, we only go to the rest stop. So like we didn't get to see anything in Europe. People are always like, what's Europe like? And I'm like, I don't know. It's
bus.
Like,
yeah.
I'm like,
the highway is kind of the same.
You ever been to the Flying J off of Arkadelphia?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was like for us. So, but yeah, I mean, shows there were awesome, but I got to play, a lot of fun, awesome venues throughout the states, so it was cool.
What do you think is the most important lesson you learned on tour for how to have fun, how to make tour work?
Man, just we were always the band that like we would bring cards, Scrabble, like all the bands we'd tour with, like we'd have like Scrabble competitions, like all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's definitely changed now. Like everyone's kind of like in their phone or whatever, just seeing it from Workplay. It's like people load into the green room and they're just playing on their phones, which is it's the world we live in. But
yeah,
I feel like it could be. I feel like that would be more depressing over time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you got to bugger off.
Yeah.
And go keep
fun,
grinding, keep working on Workplay.
Yeah.
This meeting you're talking about, is that some of the renovations y'all are working on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we've got an architect coming, and just gonna kind of go over some plans and ideas with them on reconstruction of the soundstage. So
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Jacob, any other thoughts?
Dude, no, I'm glad we get to hear from you. Johnny has been a guy I've known of. He's good friends with my older brother, friends of my older brother.
Okay.
His name's John McClendon. He used to play with that band that I talked about earlier, but yeah, it's just cool to get an insight because from the outside, as a person who operates Birmingham music scene a lot. I mean, there's Saturn and Avondale and Workplay and venues popping up all the time and shows popping up all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun, cool scene that I think that we get to be a part of. It's not it's this cool medium of it's not crazy oversaturated, but it's also not we live in Opelika and get some 3 cool bands a year. It's this cool middle, and you guys are I feel doing a lot the brunt of the work on there's 2 festivals here and they're both really, really solid festivals. That's a gift to the community for sure. So
yeah,
we just appreciate you coming on. It's been a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. We just we love Birmingham. We love live music, and
Hey, so you lived here your whole life?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. I love when people stay in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's a big part of our whole thing is, we could move to Austin or some other bigger city where podcasts are bigger and we might be able to get bigger guests or whatever the goal is with this or with any of our other, ventures. But we love Birmingham. Birmingham rocks. Our families are here.
I've been just about everywhere else, and, Birmingham's home to me and wouldn't really consider going anywhere else. So I love it here.
Well, thanks for contributing to Birmingham being
absolutely.
awesome. We appreciate you. And everyone listening, check out Iron Hills.
Yeah.
Check out
IronHillsCountry.com.
Yes, and check out Furnace Fest.
Yep.
It might not be everyone's taste, but
Mom Jeans is playing this year.
Hardcore music rocks too.
There's
You should give it a shot.
There's at least something for everyone on that lineup.
Do y'all have any other festivals you have in the works, in the dream?
Actually,
long-term?
we're about to announce another one for the 3rd weekend.
No way.
Are you
So
serious?
you really don't want to sleep in October, genuinely?
October is just go mode.
Let's go.
Is it a different if you can't talk about it, it's okay. But
I was going to say, this is going to come out in a month, so I don't know what your time, and you don't have to talk about it.
So it's going to announce mid-April, but totally different genre.
Cool.
Wow. I hope it's house music.
Yeah. We're big house guys. We're big into house music right now.
Okay, cool.
And Euro
That's super
techno
fun.
stuff. Anyway.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to keep up, and we can chat again about any other future festivals and things like that. So thanks for coming on.
All right. Awesome.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cheers.